Francesca put on the event, and I'm really good mates with Chess, so she asked me if I wanted to be involved, and I said I did. And then she said, look, would you because I compare a lot. She said, would you like to compare the event? I was like, yeah, great. And then she showed me the lineup, and I went, okay, that's quite a terrifying lineup, because it was just brilliant, you know, Jeremy Hardy, Mark Thomas, Stuart Lee. I mean, like, it was insane, you know. But yeah, I was delighted to be involved, and also because I really believe in what Firebox stand for and what they do, so it was a no-brainer, really. There was when the Iraq War, when Britain declared war with Iraq, despite the fact that we didn't have the support of the UN. I think there were a lot of people in this country, because we're sort of a nation of people, we're easily lost at sea, we don't really know how to organise ourselves. And Firebox were instrumental in organising one of the biggest marches I can remember in my lifetime, certainly as an adult anyway, against the war. And it was incredible, like millions of people went on this march. And I think, although it didn't stop the war, what it did do is it gave, you know, a lot of people in this country a bit of a shake, and it also reminded us that we can, when we're not happy about something, we can go out and march, and we can tell the government that we're unhappy. And it's unfortunate that we went on one march and then went, oh, I'm just knackered, I can do another one. But you know, it got us started, and Firebox. And at the time I didn't know this, with the organisation that acted as a catalyst to make that happen. And it wasn't just something that happened in London. There were people coming. I remember I had a gig in Leicester at the time, and I got a bus down from Leicester to London to make sure I was there in time for the march, and I wasn't the only one. The whole coach was full of people all going on the march. So there were people coming down from all over the country. And it was incredible, really. And I think in a time when it's so depressing. Everyone talks about Thatcher, and she might have started this whole snowball, but really we're in the shittest period of screwing the poorest and the most vulnerable people in this country. And we need to have a space where like-minded people can go and come up with some bloody ideas to get so that we can generate a movement is what we need, really, against the government, and to say, look, we're not happy with this isn't going to happen, and we do not agree with the cuts that are taking place, and we do not want the welfare state to become something that is just only remembered in history books. I do not want to live in a country where we have a health system that is the same as the United States. I mean, that to me is just terrifying. So without organisations like Firebox, I do really fear for this country, because day by day the NHS is being dismantled, benefits are being cut, you know, and you know, you hear things like the Tories talking about fairness, you know, we want to cut benefits because of fairness, and yet they're implementing something which actually is more expensive than anything that they'll get from the cuts, like cutting, say, for example, disability benefit. It doesn't make any sense. There's no fairness involved in that. And if we're talking about fairness, then, you know, the idea that people are working but also taking benefits, and it's sort of like taking something that's handed to them. But yet we look at the richest people in this country, the most affluent, the people that everything's been handed to them, and that doesn't seem to be a problem. When you've got money, money begets money, and we're all like happy about that. But if you're poor, it's like, well, fuck you, you're on your own, love. And I don't want to live in a country, I don't want to have a government that's supposed to be representing me that believes that. So I really hope that, you know, this benefit has generated some money. It's not going to be enough to keep this venue open, so that we get the right thinking people in one place to come up with some bloody good ideas to get us out of this problem, because and I for one will wholly support it in any way that I can, and I'd love to be involved in any way that I can. I mean, the arts is always the first thing that gets cut, you know, whenever there's a recession. And people are like, oh, what do we need arts for? I mean, God, we should be focusing on health and education, whatever. And it's absolutely true, of course we should, but without art, without the arts, without people standing up and really, it's a bit like just shining a torch in a corner of the room going, you have seen this corner, but you haven't looked at it for a while, and check it out, because some really bad, dirty shit is clogged up there. And I think comedy and the arts do that, and I think it's so important to have a voice. And if you're a stand-up comedian, you're lucky enough to have a voice where you can do that. And I think, you know, if you're working as a club comic, you're often standing in front of people who maybe aren't, where you are challenging their opinions. Maybe they have the same, maybe they've got the same political view and opinion as their parents, just because their parents are Tories, that they're Tories, they've never really challenged it, they've never really thought about it. They go to a comedy gig and all of a sudden someone's challenging and questioning their values, and they're like, actually, that makes sense. And maybe, you know, it can make a person think differently. And I actually really think it can, and it's proven that it can, but it is. And also, if you're laughing at the same time, sometimes you don't even realise that it's changed your mind about something, you know? I don't like being lectured, and I hate someone telling me how to think. And comedy kind of does that subliminally, which is a fantastic tool, really, if you're a lefty. And how many right-wing stand-up comics are there? Apart from Jim Davidson, not many. Yeah, I think it was a brilliant show. I think the audience initially were like a little bit like, what's going on? But they kind of got to grips with what was happening, and I think enjoyed it. And unbelievable lineup, and everybody was fantastic. And I think anyone that came to see the show tonight would have had a great time.